Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to go over the most recent Star Citizen Live. This is the last Star Citizen Live of 2024, and they go over a ton of really important updates. Now, in this episode, they're going to talk about base building, crafting, and the land claim system. I'm going to jump around to specific time stamps so we can get the information directly, and just I'm going to kind of talk about it and give my opinions. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. It might be a longer one. All right, so the first question, they're going to kind of talk about the land claim stuff and how this uh, pertains to the shard system. So let's hear what they have to say about this really important question, and I'll kind of just give my feedback about it.
Question I saw probably most commonly after CitizenCon was, how does all this work with shards?
Yep, this is a big one indeed. I think I saw this asked 20 odd times. So the plan is that every base, every plot of land, every extraction pot will be visible across all the shards within a region. And then a lot of the functionality of the base will also be available across all the shards within a region. So if I make a base and I set up a shop, people on other shards can come visit and use my shop. The exception is going to be raiding and attacking a base. This can only occur on a single shard, and which shard that is dynamic based on the rule set. The easiest rule is always, is the owner online? Then the raid can only occur on that owner's shard. This means that if I'm on another shard and I rock up with a gun and I shoot the base, it'll prompt me, you'll have to change shard in order to attack this base. Obviously as shards increase, we see this less and less, but the advantage of that is that you'll never be in this scenario where your shard, you're not able to defend your base. You'll always be able to defend your base in this scenario.
Okay, so I'm going to pause right there. So that's a lot of really important information right there. So how this system works, based on the way he's describing it, is that we're going to have regions and we're going to have shards, and whatever you put on the shard is going to be replicated across all the shards in that region. So if you build a base by a river, then that base will be represented across all the shards in that region. Now, one of the things that was kind of in question was kind of the region aspect of the shard tech. And I think this does make sense. A good example is kind of like with countries like China. I believe that foreign businesses that want to sell products and do business in China, they must partner with a Chinese company. And right now, CIG doesn't have that. A lot of people have said that maybe CIG will partner with Tencent to be able to sell the game officially in China. But there are different legal stuff like that, right? You need a ESRB rating, and CIG gets away with a lot of that stuff right now because the game is in early access. But once 1.0 comes out, they more than likely will have to partner with different companies or do different legal things to be able to officially have servers in those regions and shards acting in those regions. So realistically, for 1.0, it won't be a type of system where the whole world is on one shard. And again, it's not just for technical regions like the speed of light. It might initially be for legal reasons, to have regional shard clusters, I guess you could call them. Now, if you put a base by the river or something like that, and you're not on that shard, that means that if somebody walks up to it, they will kind of, like he said, see this message that the owner is not on the shard or something like that. I think this is kind of immersion breaking. What I think that they could do is just have a physical representation of the shield. So if the owner is not on that server, you basically can scan and it will be, it'll tell you like, the shield is enabled for this this property, for this land claim, and combat is prohibited, kind of like what you see when you're in armistice zone. But if the owner is online, it'll basically tell you that the shield is down or the armistice zone is not enabled, because again, the owner is on that shard and you'll be able to attack it. I think that would be again kind of more of a lore explanation for why you can't attack this base. Kind of something, I want them to come up with something that's a little bit less gamified, is basically what I'm saying. And I think it will be kind of interesting, the dynamic, if we're going to have to jump to different shards to be able to find one that's the owner's on. Because I don't know if it's a system where it is the shard that the owner made the base on as their home shard or something like that, or if it's the shard that the owner is currently on. So let's say, for instance, I go to my friend's shard or whatever, and I'm at my friend's base or whatever. I technically am, on a shard that might be with the same person, but it's not the shard that I built that base on. Or I don't know if we're going to have home shards or a shard list that we can pick from, because if you have to dynamically jump around to different shards to be able to find, let's say I want to raid this base for strategic reasons. I'm an org that has that wants to do an org war with another org, for instance, right? And this org set up their base through one person. So basically, they gathered all of the resources and they just gave it to one person, and this one person is in charge of the land claim. And the reason why the org would do that was so that they just have this person offline basically all the time, but the org is maintaining the base because it's an org base, right? So it's not like this person has abandoned the base, but the person who built it is just not online. That's what I'm saying. Can we find loopholes like that, where we can just have an alt account make the base, and that alt account is just gone forever, so no one could ever attack the base, but the base is still being maintained by people who have permissions, right? I don't know if it's going to be a system like that, where if that's the case, the enemy org just going to be waiting forever, jumping around to different shards, trying to find out if the person who built this base or whatever is online. I think they're going to go into a little bit more detail here in a little bit about how this system works in lawless systems. So let's skip to that right now.
So how will this look like in terms of offline raiding and base defenses? Is there any aspect of this, if I just don't log in, is my stuff just always safe? Is there some decay timer? Is there some danger? How do you get rid of old decrepit bases that are just abandoned?
Yeah, so if you are in the scenario where your base is in a lawless area and you haven't secured the planetary shield tech from the previous week's station warfare, then you are open to be raided whether you're online or offline. You can create your own defenses to deter that. You will be able to create your own shielding, which forces them into a ground assault, walls to delay the ground assault, turrets and such. And then it could be the case where they're raiding the base and they don't actually know what's available to loot. They don't know what's in your storage, so it would be wise to occasionally take your valuables out of the lawless area and haul them back to a more safer spot like Terra or Stanton. But if you find yourself open like that, you can be raided.
Okay, so basically what he's saying is that what we were talking about earlier is for lawful systems, or a player who has received protection from the planetary shield network, right, in Pyro or Nyx. If you don't have planetary shield protection, your base is open to be raided. Basically, if you're online or offline, it doesn't matter. Now, okay, that kind of brings up some key things, because it doesn't technically answer the question that I had earlier, but it kind of opens the door for it, right? So, when I said I want them to create like an immersive reason for why you can't attack the base, well, again, you'll probably just get the message that the planetary shield is enabled, you can't attack this base right now. And basically that is, the owner is not online, or the planetary shield is, partially enabled in this area if the owner is online, but it is protected. So what I think is going to happen here is that you have kind of three states, or multiple states of an outpost, right? You have the partially interactable state where the owner is not online, so you can interact with this, like trade with this location, use its facilities, but you can't attack it. Then you have kind of an advanced state to that, I would say, where the owner is online but the planetary shield is enabled. So more than likely you will be able to attack it, but it will have shields up. The NPCs will fly in and protect this location. Again, I don't know how exactly that's going to look like. What the extent you're going to be able to attack this location is, if it's in a lawful area or unlawful area. I think that basically what I'm saying is I don't know if there's a difference between the planetary shield network in Stanton and the planetary shield network in Pyro. I know in Stanton there will be NPCs that show up and help you kind of just defend this location. And I don't think that's going to happen in Pyro. But I don't entirely know if it's just, okay, I got planetary shield protection in Pyro, now my base is just invulnerable. I don't know if that's what it looks like, right? And then there's again going to be kind of like the ultimate invulnerability. You are in a protected zone and you're offline, right? So you have I guess again different states that this outpost location can be in, right? You are in a protected zone and you're offline, so it's completely invulnerable. You are in a protected zone and you're online, so it's kind of partially attackable. And you're in an unprotected zone and you're offline, so people could just destroy it, right? So I think that can get complicated if you introduce the shard system, where now people are trying to find what shard you're on if you have protection. If you don't have protection, if you're in Pyro or you're in Nyx, and you kind of just walk up to a location, let's say, you want to build a, base, a mining outpost or something like that, and you want to just get materials from the ground, so you're not worried about the planetary shield network, then other players will just be able to walk up to your base and start using the facilities and essentially, stealing your resources and that type of stuff. But it depends on, I guess, the amount of effort you want to put into it.
What's our current plan for how those will work in high security systems versus low security systems?
Yeah, so the plan is with planetary shield tech that if you have it, your base is immune to attack, your stuff cannot be stolen, and there's actually two layers of shielding going on here. You have a air shield, which prevents bombardments, and then you also have basically it hugs the building, so even if you go through the shield with a tank and try and shoot the building directly, it still won't take damage. So you're very, very, very safe when it comes to planetary shield tech.
Okay. And
yeah, so that basically answers my question right there. If the planetary shields are enabled, your structures are invulnerable. I think that that's again a potentially good thing for offline stuff, and that's kind of the whole point of the station warfare that they want to enable. They want to give a big tangible reason for fighting over these station credits, these shield tech credits, so or tokens or whatever they call it. So players again will put resources into these locations and fight over them so that they can get protection for that week, and it will create a lot of replayability in these lawless systems for these orgs that want to get resources from Pyro, because I believe that Pyro will be the star system that has the most valuable resources. So I think that will, again, that'll be very interesting gameplay for these larger orgs to kind of keep them occupied and give them a reason to actually fight against each other instead of, you know, just the milsim type stuff. So I look forward to that.
Will mining extractors and other processors automatically eject boxes, allowing anyone to just tractor them away? Or will we have to eject them by hand?
This is a good question.
All right, I'll take this one. But there's a few things here. So there's lots of different crafting machines that do their processes a little differently, but most of them will have an internal buffer that lets them hold the results of their process until you're ready to pick them up. That being said, you can also have them directly put stuff in boxes as soon as it's ready. But if you're worried about people nicking it, you don't need to be so concerned because they'll be subject to the same sort of permissions as anything else in your base. So that's like, the mag lock that stops people stealing your chair will also stop them stealing your cargo boxes. Unless they have permission to move them, they'll be mag locked to the output grid.
That's great. I think that's a really good idea. I think that may be kind of the big differentiator between cargo grids and off-grid storage, even on ships, right? Because I know there is a lot of conversation about off-grid things destroying the ship. I don't think that will happen when we get the full, destructibility that CIG is working on, right? If you lose gravity on your ship, of course, the off-grid things could fly around and physically damage your ship, right? But if there is gravity on your ship, they're not really going to just move around unless you're flying crazy, pulling, a bunch of G's like a fighter pilot or something like that. So more than likely, off-grid storage things will be perfectly fine, right? But the big differentiator might be that on-grid storage will be mag-locked, so you will need special permission to move them, right? So if you get pirated, more likely things that are off-grid, the pirates will just be able to take, but things that are on-grid, the pirates will have to hack the ship to be able to disable the mag lock and actually take the boxes out. So I think that again will be a specific selling feature for the grid storage, and a good safety feature for different outposts, and that players can build themselves.
Hey, a mining question. Will underground deposits respawn over time, and how is the overall rarity of minerals accounted for in the economy?
Really question.
Short answer, yes. So they will respawn, but it is very unlikely that they will respawn on the land plot that you already have. So if you already have a base, you already extracted it, every mineral that was below your extractor, it's very unlikely that the deposit will respawn. So what we want to see there is players more moving around in their bases and basically going through new locations and actually grabbing new resources. And to answer the economy part of that question, yes, that is a huge undertaking that we have to go through here, and that is we really have to get certain resources out of the system, and the system.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause right there. That's really good. I think that that's going to lead to a lot of interesting, more dynamic gameplay instead of, I think CIG really wants to prevent this idea of passive income where you just put a base on land and it just starts making money for you. I think they want you to be active in the gameplay at all times. So you build a base, you have to be at the terminal to extract the stuff, and you'll have it spit out boxes, and you have to manually interact with these boxes to put them on your ship and sell them. And then once this resource vein or whatever underneath the ground goes dry, you can dismantle this facility or location and move it, right? So that kind of is the idea to keep the player invested in the gameplay. So this kind of brings us on to the next question here: if we can dismantle locations. Again, if the idea is that this location's resources will run dry, then what are we going to do with this building? At the location, we're going to more than likely have to break it down, right? So let's hear what they have to say about that.
Can we deconstruct buildings, and how is this done?
Yes, you can destruct. You can deconstruct your building. So there it is, like you would construct it. There's the construction AR mode. So you will make use of the drones. The drones then will disassemble the building, and if you have a freight elevator, they will automatically put the material that they gather from the disassembling process onto the freight elevator. You will get some of the material back that you invested in building, but we will because it's just it's a gameplay mechanic, but it also makes sense, right? In the disassembling process, you will not get one-to-one what you invested. There is a loss of material.
That's really good. Okay, so I think that makes sense as well. Obviously, they're gonna need to have some type of dismantling system again. If you have crafting, you have salvaging and that type of thing, you're gonna ultimately be able to disassemble the things that you assemble, simply put. Now, when you lose some of the materials, again, that makes sense. In certain manufacturing processes, they use glues and gaskets and certain screws that cannot be reused. You can't reuse glue that has dried ultimately. So again, you might need some type of adhesive to build something, and materials like that will get lost in the deconstruction process. So that makes perfect sense and is very realistic, and it kind of leads on to this idea of a potential pot system, and I think they're going to talk about that in this video as well. This is something that I suggested when I went over my crafting video. I think a pot system is very immersive, and it kind of gives the players a little bit more flexibility.
How does crafting change existing gathering methods such as mining and salvage?
That is a bigger topic, because so the TLDR, or the short version, is the mining that we have right now will change more drastically again, and we will revisit other gathering methods that we have. Like we have mining, we have salvage, and salvage will also get a nice little treat. But let's start with mining. So on the mining side, we basically have to, because of the quality that we add to the minables that you will now find, we talked about that, and we considered that, okay, with the mining system right now, where we have multiple resources per rock, that doesn't make any sense, because you might want to look for quality instead of finding a specific resource. So we want to make it easier for the player to actually look for the specific resources they need for the crafting processes. So we will basically split up or we break out the randomness in the minables that we currently have, but have bespoke minables. So we will find the copper rock, the iron rock, the
Titanium.
Titanium rock. Thank you.
Yeah,
so the titanium rock, and because what you're looking for is a better quality there, right? So you will still look for the titanium rock that basically fits, has the perfect quality, but you don't have to look for a rock that contains titanium anymore.
Interesting.
And here
So it's pretty good. I'm gonna pause right there. Basically, they're saying that they're gonna change it right now. How the system works is that you go to asteroid belt or on a planet, you find a rock, it has a bunch of different stuff in it. It's not going to be like that anymore. You find a rock or an asteroid, it's going to be a titanium rock or an iron rock or a gold rock. It's just going to have that thing in it, but instead of having different materials, it will have percentages of purity, for instance. So it might only be like 10% pure gold, or 10% pure copper, or high quality copper, so to say. And when you mine it and you break it apart, you'll have little chunks that have higher percentages of the higher quality stuff. Now there's more likely still going to be a reason to get the lower quality stuff if you want to make tier 1 items or have an item with specific amount of specifications. And again, that kind of talks back to the idea of this kind of part system, to be able to put certain materials into different parts or aspects of a thing. So basically I've already seen this live stream, but it's one of those things where it makes sense to watch it multiple times because you've seen things that you didn't realize before.
Let's talk about what our current thinking is, what our current plan is, what our current intention for how land claims are supposed to work. And keep in mind that, like everything else, there's a period of time between now and when this is implemented, and we reserve the right to have any better ideas that come along. We reserve the right to look at what you've said on Reddit and Spectrum and everywhere else, on YouTube comments, and have that inspire better ideas. So while these things may change, let's talk about what the current plan for implementation is for land claims.
Yeah, so there's a lot here. I'll kind of walk through just plots of land in general, and then we'll talk about how the land claim beacons fall into that. So when you go to acquire a plot of land to build on, there's a couple choices you need to make straight off the bat. We have a general plot, which allows you to build anything, and then there are prospecting plots, which are a little bit smaller, they're cheaper, and they're more geared towards mining. You'll see a square layered on the terrain, and that's basically your current selected plot of land. You can grab a face of it, make it a rectangle, make it into a bigger square, and this is you selecting the surface area that you want, and the cost scales up with the surface area. If you were to purchase a 1 by 1 kilometer and then another 1 by 1 kilometer, it would actually be more expensive because the cost will take into account the total surface area you own on the planet. Where the beacon comes in is that you kind of skip this initial UEC cost for purchasing a plot. You just use the beacon and you have your plot of land. From then onwards, if you bought with UEC or you used a land claim beacon, there'll be a reoccurring UEC tax. And if you fail to pay that tax over a period of time, you'll begin to lose rights to your base, and eventually you'll lose complete ownership of the land, complete ownership of the building. They can be looted, someone else can buy up that area. That's it's very important that we avoid this concept of like a dead base. We don't want people to be able to just go AFK either for a year, even though they stacked up billions in their account. We still don't want them to be able to have a dead base. We want to free that up for the players. In addition to that, there will be some limitations where you can buy plots of land and use beacons. We're going to have, for want of a better term, a national park, both in lawful and lawless areas, and it's a no-build zone, and this allows us to reserve land that's pristine for exploration, it's pristine for resource gathering, and so on. I think that's, oh no, there's one other thing, sorry. When you have your plot of land, there'll also be an exclusion zone around it where no one else can buy or build, so you can't get boxed in. That is a high-level summary, I suppose, of the current plan for land claims and plots in general.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good. I like that. So basically, what he's saying is that you're gonna have this beacon, and the way it was when they sold it is that you will have this square plot of land that you own with the beacon. So the beacon represents where you could put down this land claim, but you're going to be able to buy land in game by acquiring this AR mode, and then you'll be able to pay taxes on it. Now, in unlawful zones, it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit open-ended. You're probably not going to need the beacon, right? So a lot of people kind of freaking out about the fact that the Pioneer is not coming with the beacon anymore, but or even saying that it's some type of pay-to-win advantage. When I think it's not really going to be the case, right? Because in lawful systems like Stanton, Terra, Castra, you will probably need to purchase land, right? And you'll need the beacon to do that because this is UEE controlled space, and you'll need to pay taxes on that land. But in Pyro and Nyx, I don't believe you're going to need the beacon. More than likely, you're just going to be able to claim the land, and by claiming the land, you go into the AR mode, you say that, okay, this is my land and I'm going to build here on this structure. And if you want it to be protected, you have to do the whole planetary shield network gameplay system to have it protected in Pyro and Nyx. And if you don't, then anybody can come in and bust it up, right? So I do think it is partially an advantage because somebody who has a Pioneer with a land claim, they can put down land in Stanton, Terra, or Castro without needing to purchase it. And I don't know how expensive land is going to be there, but they're still going to have to pay taxes on it. And it's not going to be the best resources in the game. Now, Pyro and Nyx will have the best resources in the game. And you're not going to need to buy it. But the only difference is, so again, on day one, if you want to buy land just to, put a cabin in the woods, a hunting cabin, yes, it's kind of an advantage for Pioneer owners who have a land claim because they won't need to buy land in Stanton, Terra, or Nyx. But that land is not going to be the most valuable land. It's not going to be the most resource-rich land. That's going to be in Pyro, and in Pyro you don't have to pay for the land. You can just you have to interact with the planetary shield network stuff. So it's just going to be a little bit different. But I think again on day one, I don't think CIG wants base building to be the gameplay loop on day one, because another part of this that they didn't really talk about is citizenship and the access to land that grants. So more likely, right, to buy land in Terra, you're probably gonna have to complete the story and become a citizen. So even if you have a Pioneer with a land claim, you're still gonna have to play through the story and become a citizen to buy land in Terra in specific areas. So let's say I have a Pioneer and a land claim beacon, but I never play the game. Somebody who plays the game regularly, more than likely, will be able to finish the story, become a citizen, and just hire somebody else to build on the land claim that they bought with in-game money in Terra. So it's just not as straightforward as saying you bought a Pioneer, you have a land claim beacon, you automatically win. I don't think that's the case. I think it will be a little bit more dynamic because CIG wants you to play the game. They don't want you to just be AFK, like they say. You build a base, go AFK, and that's just there permanently forever. You have to put in effort into this stuff to be able to keep it for a long time. I think the system seems good so far. I like the direction that they're going in, so let's just keep going.
How does this work? What are tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is it the same thing for every ship? Is it different for every ship? Is it customizable, like I seem to think you just hinted at there? How are we expecting this tier system to work? Keeping in mind, there's still lots of development between now and its implementation.
Yes, absolutely. But I'll talk about the current plans. So first of all, there's different kinds of blueprint, and most of them will be upgradable through research. Different kinds of blueprint will get different benefits from researching them. So like a refining blueprint will get more efficient, so you get a better yield of refined goods for raw input. Or like a repair blueprint might be able to repair a little bit more effectively, stuff like that. But the one that everyone's probably asking about is the creation blueprint, which lets you make new stuff. And a higher tier one of those will let you craft the higher tier of the relevant item. So let's say you've already got the tier 1 blueprint for a gun, and it has stats like fire rate and recoil. You'll be able to see on the crafting UI the stat range for those stat types. And the exact value that you get when you actually make the gun will be dependent on the quality of the resources that you put in. When you upgrade the blueprint to tier 2, you'll see the tier 2 version of the gun, and those stat ranges will be shifted. So it'll have a higher top end and a higher low end as well. It'll be on average better, but the actual number that you get is still dependent on the quality of the materials you put in. Of course, the higher tier blueprints also need you to bring more advanced materials to them. And yeah, related to that is that these blueprints have aspects, we call them. It's kind of like parts of the product, so like the barrel of a gun or the grip.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I was talking about with the part system. Essentially, like what he's about to explain, is that if you put high quality material in the barrel, that will change the barrel stats. And if you put high quality material in the grip, that will change the grip stats. So a tier 1 item will essentially need a certain quality of material, and it'll essentially have this pool of or this range of stats that you can apply that to, right? So whether you apply those stats to the barrel or the mechanism or the grip, that will, to keep it tier 1, it won't go above a certain range in these stat values. When you jump up to tier 2, that's when the range in stat values jump up to kind of like a higher number, right? But again, you can put different amounts of quality material in different parts of the weapon. So let's say you have a tier 2 gun, but it kind of has tier 3 recoil, right? But it doesn't have tier 3 accuracy. So that still makes it a tier 2, if that makes any sense. To make it a tier 3, it would need tier 3 accuracy and tier 3 recoil, right? So, but if you prefer tier 3 recoil and you don't really care about the tier 3 accuracy because you're a good shooter, then you can just put the good materials into the grip, and you could have a tier 2 gun that you personally could utilize like a tier 3 gun, because again, you don't need the accuracy, you're a good shot, you just want less recoil. So I think that a part system gives you an item that is more tailored to your playstyle, not just an item that is universally better than all the other items. Because again, I didn't want them to make like a gamified system where you have like a tier 5 gun and it's just automatically better, right? You still want some kind of player agency, so where that in the hands of a capable player, a tier 2 weapon is still very effective against a tier 3 or tier 4 weapon in the hands of a less capable player. So there is still that player agency there, and I think this part system, giving the players the ability to choose what where they want to put their quality materials into, allows you to create kind of more unique items, right? So you could create 500 tier 3 guns, but they would be completely different than somebody else's 500 tier 3 guns, because maybe your tier 3 guns focus on the barrels, maybe their tier 3 guns focus on the mechanism, while someone else's tier 3 guns focus on the grip. So you all sit tier 3 guns that's the same gun, but the personalized. So if I want to go to get this kind of blueprint research recipe, I'm going to go to that guy because I like the way he makes his guns, and the way he makes his guns is suited well to my playstyle. So I know a lot of people might think that's complicated, but as somebody who's very interested in industrial gameplay and crafting and all this kinds of stuff, this is really exciting to me, and this is the reason why I propose that CIG do a crafting system like this. And I'm not saying that CIG watches this YouTube channel and liked the idea, but that's kind of the whole reason why the community should suggest stuff to CIGs, because players pooling all of their best ideas together is going to make a system that is going to be the best system, right? So a lot of people are saying that they want CIG to start working on this stuff, testing it, getting out as soon as possible. They don't want CIG to change things late in the game. It's like, well, I totally understand that, right? But at the same time, we all want this game to be the best game that it can absolutely be, right? So if this system isn't ultimately the best system in the world and we don't absolutely love it to death, then them modifying it or tweaking it or adding more features to it, there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion, because I want them to make the best system. I don't want to just have something so they can be done with it, right? Because for a lot of people, this is going to be their forever game that they play forever. And again, I fully expect to play this game for a very long time, all the time. And I know a lot of MMO players will be excited about a system like that. It's not too different from a lot of other systems. Again, even in something like Minecraft, right? You have parts of different items that you need to get resources for. So, a part system in a subsystem, a part subsystem in a crafting system it's not unique to Star Citizen. There are other games that have that type of thing where you need to get a certain material for the helmet part or whatever, right? And so having that in Star Citizen could be a lot more detailed once you get into let's say something like ships, and it will come into play with the deconstruction of the items as well. So let's say you have a ship, you're gonna need to get parts for it, right? So maybe you're gonna need certain materials for the windscreen, certain materials like glass or sand, right? To make the glass. You're gonna need the steel, you're gonna need plastics, you're gonna need maybe adhesives, all these things to make up parts for the ship. And let's say you get some really cheap adhesives, right? Or whatever, so the ship isn't as durable, right? The hull or whatever. You get some really high quality fasteners and that type of stuff, so the ship is really solid, it's not rickety, and that would add more points into the hull or whatever. So I think that a parts system is really cool. Again, more immersive, more realistic. And again, you could put, like, let's say that having a very robust hull is not a priority for you because you're a good pilot, right? Your enemy can't land shots on you because or maybe you have a great shield. You have a tier 5 shield or something like that. So you're not worried about your hull. You're not going to put your best materials into that thing. But your ship is still like a tier 3 ship because overall it has a lot of other tier 3 components in it. So you basically have the maneuverability and the components of a tier 5 ship, but because the hull is just like junk, right? It's considered a tier 3 ship. So because you're a good pilot, you can do more with that tier 3 ship than a bad pilot with a tier 5 ship, because a bad pilot with a tier 5 ship is getting hit a ton because they can't outmaneuver their opponent, so their opponent's just shooting them, taking down their shields, and hitting their hull. But because you're a good pilot, you can avoid getting hit, and so you don't need to worry about your hull as much, and so you put those materials into better components, better maneuvering, and that type of thing. So you're doing more with a lower tier ship because you're a better pilot. And that's why I think, again, to reiterate again, why I think a part system is a better system. This video has gone on for a long time. There's a ton of stuff covered in this episode of Star Citizen Live. It was an amazing episode, but I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Obviously, they go over some more stuff. It's a little bit, I think we kind of know about it a little bit, you know. There's not too much reason to go over it, but I'll leave this video linked in the video description below so you guys can watch it yourself if you haven't watched it already. I know a lot of other creators also reacted to some of this information coming out. These are big updates at the end of the day that I'm really excited about. But I want to hear what you guys think about all this stuff in the comments down below. What do you think about these systems? What do you think about base building, crafting, and the land claim system? You guys excited about the regional shards or that type of thing? Are you excited about building your base and crafting for the first time? I want to hear what you guys think. I love talking to you guys. You guys are my favorite part of this channel, hands down. Interacting with you is one of my favorite things to do. So that's going to be it for me in this video, you guys. A lot more content coming out with 4.0. I'm very excited. I'm very optimistic, to say the least, about the future of this game. I think this is just kind of the quiet before the storm, I think is the best way to put it. So, like I always say at the end of these videos, you guys, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Salut!